I clapped Logan on the back, and when he turned to face me, I unleashed a punch with all the strength I could muster. My fist connected with his nose, and I heard the sickening crunch of bone. Blood spurted, and as he instinctively raised his hands to his face, I drove my knee into his gut. He doubled over, gasping for breath. One final blow to the side of his head sent him sprawling to the ground. I considered kicking him a few more times, but then I thought he gets the point. I turned to Melissa and said, "Looks like I broke his nose. Maybe you can kiss it better," and walked away from the woman who was supposed to be my wife and the man who had been my closest friend. The evening had started innocuously enough. It was Melissa's cousin's birthday, celebrated at Rick's Bar and Grill. We had arranged some tables, ordered drinks, and were enjoying the live band. Everyone seemed to be having a blast. We had been there for just over 3 hours when something caught my eye. Melissa was dancing with my best friend Logan. This wasn't unusual by itself, but the way his hands slid down her back and rested on her butt made my stomach churn. She didn't push him away or say anything. Then I noticed Logan's leg pressing against hers, and again she did nothing. Their behavior had me on edge, so I moved to get a better view, pretending to chat with others at the table. The music stopped, and it took them a few seconds to realize it and separate. They returned to the table, sitting on opposite sides, but I saw them exchange glances. During the next song, I danced with Melissa and asked, "Is everything okay?" "Yes, why?" "You seem distant tonight, like your thoughts are elsewhere." "It's just your imagination, Jake. I'm fine." We danced for 3 more songs before returning to the table. Logan asked Melissa to dance a few minutes later, and I watched them closely. They danced close again, but this time Melissa must have said something because Logan quickly pulled his hand away and glanced at me. About an hour later, Melissa got up to use the restroom, and a minute later, Logan followed her. Suspicious, I waited a few minutes before heading toward the restrooms. Logan wasn't there, and we hadn't crossed paths, meaning he must have gone out the back door. Realizing that if I exited through the back, they'd have time to separate and come up with an excuse, I instead went out the front door and quietly circled the building. When I reached the northeast corner, I saw them. They were locked in an embrace, kissing passionately. They were so absorbed in each other that they didn't notice me approaching from behind. Back at my apartment, I packed all of Melissa's belongings into garbage bags. Just as I was finishing, I heard a knock at the door and the sound of a key in the lock. Melissa walked in. Without looking up, I said, "Just in time to take your crap out of here. I was about to throw it all away. Can we talk about this?" "No, I saw enough tonight to know everything I need to know." "It wasn't what you think." "It doesn't matter. I saw what I saw. You broke Logan's nose and probably his jaw. He's lucky. I should have done more. I've never seen you so violent. Sometimes it's good not to see things. Now please, just take your things and go." "Jake, I made a stupid mistake. I drank too much and wasn't thinking clearly. Good thing I caught you before we got married, not after." "Please, it didn't mean anything. As soon as you put on my ring, you were supposed to be mine. You've shown me I can't trust you. Take your things and leave." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she began to take off her engagement ring. "Keep it. I don't want it reminding me of you. If you keep it, Logan won't have to buy you one. Consider it my wedding gift to you." She took her garbage bags and left. The next day, she called, but I hung up. She tried a few more times, but I always hung up, and eventually she stopped calling. Over the next month, Logan tried to get in touch with me several times. I finally told him that if he came near me again, I'd send him to the hospital for a month. He got the message and stopped calling. 8 months later, I received an invitation to their wedding. I laughed and threw it away. As a field engineer for an oil company, my job required frequent travel. Shortly after their wedding, I was assigned to a project in the remote regions of Greenland, assessing a new drill site. This meant I'd be gone for nearly a year with no one to come home to. I immersed myself in the job and the harsh, icy landscape. Did I think about Melissa on those cold, lonely nights? Absolutely. I thought about her constantly. I had loved her deeply and believed she felt the same. We had met by chance in a parking lot. I wasn't paying attention and backed into her car. She wasn't around, so I left my name and number under her windshield wiper. A few hours later, my phone rang. "Jake, there's a woman here to see you," my secretary said. I didn't have any appointments, but I told her to send the woman in. The door opened, and in walked the most stunning woman I had ever seen. If love at first sight exists, this was it. "Mr. Thompson, I'm Melissa Collins. I believe you left this under my windshield wiper." She held up the note. "Yes, I did. I'm terribly sorry about your car. Let me cover the repairs." Actually, I was hoping it was an invitation to dinner, though backing into my car is a rather extreme way to meet someone. I was flustered but managed to say, "Are you free tonight?" 3 days later, after our third date, she kissed me so passionately that my knees buckled. She pulled me into her apartment and said, "I don't want to wait another dozen dates while you work up the nerve to make a move." We spent the night together, and the next morning I asked, "What's your ring size?" "Why do you need to know?" "I want to buy your engagement ring." "Are you proposing?" "You're the one who didn't believe in wasting time." 5.5. We set a date, but before it arrived, there was that night at Rick's. I later learned that Melissa and Logan's marriage didn't last long. He was abusive, and after he sent her to the hospital for the 5th time, she hit him with a skillet and filed for divorce. I found out through a mutual friend, Maggie. "Are you going to call her?" Maggie asked. "No, why would you ask that?" "Because in a way, you're responsible for what happened." "How?" "Every fight they had was about you." "Come on, they disappeared from my life months before I left." "Logan is a loser. You either didn't notice or ignored it because he was your best friend. He couldn't hold a job, and every time he failed, Melissa would remind him that she lost you because of him. The last time he sent her to the hospital, he had just lost another job. Melissa told him to stop whining and be a man. He made a snide remark and she said, "I once had a real man, and I blew it." He hit her so hard she fell and hit her head. That's when she decided to leave him. "That's interesting, but I think I'll pass on calling her." "Haven't you ever made mistakes, Jake?" "I have, but I learned from them. Melissa was a mistake I won't repeat." But I wasn't joking. I missed her. Not a week went by that I didn't think about her. I still carried her picture in my wallet, but I had no intention of seeing or speaking to her. She was my past, but fate doesn't always care about your plans. One evening, after a long day, I stopped by the local bar for a drink. I had been seeing Sarah, the bartender, for a few weeks. Nothing serious, just fun. I was watching a game on the big screen when Sarah brought me a drink. "From the lady at the end of the bar," she said. I looked over and saw Melissa. I almost said, "That's no lady," but kept quiet. I didn't refuse the drink either. Melissa took my acceptance as an invitation and joined me. "How are you, Jake?" "I'm fine. How's life treating you?" "Could be better. Have your feelings for me changed at all?" "In what way? Do you still hate me?" "I never hated you. I was disappointed, but I never hated you." "I'm sorry for everything, Jake. I made foolish mistakes, and Logan was the biggest. But I swear, there was nothing beyond flirting. That's not what I saw." "You never let me explain. Logan grabbed me and kissed me. I kissed him back, and that was my mistake." "You married him 8 months later." "Because no one else cared. I sent you the invitation hoping you'd stop the wedding." "How would I have done that?" "When the priest asked if anyone objected, I hoped you'd say, 'She doesn't love him, she loves me.' But you didn't. So why are you telling me this now?" "I need you back in my life, even if it's just as a friend." As I listened, I realized the kiss bothered me because of their hands, the way they held each other. Was I making too much of it? Did I see more than there was? I still had feelings for Melissa, even though I didn't want to admit it. I could hear the remorse in her voice. I hesitated before saying, "Give me some time to think about it." A year later, we were married. It's been 2 years, and though I still have doubts, I've learned to forgive. I occasionally ask her about that night and Logan, but she always tells me, "Logan is the past, and we can't change it. I'm with you now. Let's focus on our future." Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing by taking her back. But when she looks at me, I feel warmth and love in her eyes. Maybe people can change. Perhaps the past doesn't have to dictate the future. But every so often, when she thinks I'm not looking, I see a hint of guilt in her eyes. And every now and then, I catch myself watching her closely, wondering if she's thinking of Logan or someone else. But those moments pass quickly, and we move on. For now, I'm content. I'm happy. I hope she is too.